Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks, Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. I welcome in my co-host, boxing Hall of Fame writer and all-around sports guru, Jack Hirsch. How are you, Jack?
Hey, good, Keith. Monday, new sports week. A lot going on.
You know, it's funny. We haven't got to the NBA. We're going to get to the NBA, some a little bit of Major League Baseball, and certainly some NFL as we've got free agency starting pretty soon, the combine ending, franchise tagging tomorrow. The NFL never goes away. We haven't talked a lot of NBA. And the Knicks, who yesterday on my Sunday stream of consciousness, I just labeled a pretender, turn around and paste the Spurs, who I had labeled maybe the favorite to win it all yesterday. By about 30 at the Garden. And one of the things I've had against the Knicks this season so far is their very inconsistent defense, which has been at times horrendous. But they hold a very good, obviously, Spurs team to 88 points yesterday. A great performance by the Knicks at home, where they've been good. They've been very good at home, to be fair. What do you think about yesterday's performance? And I'd like to get in and look at who we think are the contenders and pretenders in the NBA as we stand today.
Yeah, Keith, there used to be a commercial, and I forgot which company had the commercial. There'd be a tap, and it would go, "Thanks, I needed that. Thanks." We needed that from the Knicks. We needed them to show up against an elite team, and the Spurs are an elite team on today's NBA landscape because they're genuine contenders, and to turn in the performance the Knicks did, especially when they fell behind by 12 points early in the game. And the thought was, here we go again. Imagine the Knicks get blown out at home. I mean, you could just imagine the headlines. Came back, played great. And you know who's been criticized heavily in a sense? Mikal Bridges. Not because Keith of the player he is. It's because what the Knicks gave up to get him. The Knicks gave up a whole bunch of first-round draft choices, and they traded for Mikal Bridges as if he was an elite NBA player. And all Mikal Bridges has been a good starter, a good solid starter. But yesterday, watching him on the court, he was arguably the best player in the game. I mean, on defense, he shut down San Antonio at times, had steals, scored. He brought the energy to the Knicks yesterday, and that's the key word. The Knicks were playing with great energy, especially on defense, and there was nothing the Spurs could do about it.
You know, Mikal Bridges is a great guy, and to bring up because fans expect too much of him because of what they gave up. I agree, but where you see the real value of Mikal Bridges, you saw in the playoffs last year. You maybe won't see it until this year. He was tremendous against the Pistons in the playoffs. Played great defense, made big shots when he had to, but he's never going to be that number one guy, and he doesn't need to be here. So he brings great value to this team.
You know, you make a great point. It reminds me of what Larry Brown said a while ago about one of the players he had on his team, Keith Van Horn. Keith Van Horn was getting big money, and people looked at him as a disappointment. And Larry Brown said, well, if he's getting X amount of money, a lot less than that, we'd be looking at him as a very good player. Wow, this is a good player. This guy helps the team. But when a player gets big money, are you giving up so much for him? You look at it a different way. You know what? You know what's intriguing that no one talks about? Usually when a trade is made, we have an idea a year later whether it's been a good deal for the team or a bad deal. Yeah. But the Karl Anthony Towns deal where they got him from Minnesota for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, that's like a wash for both teams because I think if you ask the Knicks and the Timberwolves at this time whether or not they would still make the deal, I think both teams would still make the deal a year later.
He's a guy that still confounds me. I mean, he's so good sometimes, and then he just kind of disappears. And now there's some question, and I don't know how accurate they are, but there's some reports that he and Mike Brown have got some friction. We'll see. He always comes up in trade. He's still, just like with the Raptors, he always comes up in trade conversation all the time. He's a guy that I'd love to watch play when he's really playing well and into the game. But I can't decide whether it's a good trade or not for the Knicks myself. I mean, yeah, I'd probably make the trade again because I don't know. But do you think it's been a good trade? I can't decide.
I would. You're right about Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns' legacy ultimately is going to be tied to the playoffs. It's a little different with the Timberwolves because Anthony Edwards is going to be looked at as the reason why the Timberwolves is going to succeed or fail going forward. He's the guy. He's the lightning rod. He's the big star, as far as the Minnesota Timberwolves go. But in New York, we expect Jalen Brunson to have a supporting cast. If the Knicks don't win it all, we're not going to blame Jalen Brunson because people get the feeling that Jalen Brunson lays it all on the line every game, and he's been a heck of a player for the Knicks. He's performed. He's done his job. But for the Knicks to win an NBA championship, he's going to need help. And if all the players on that team, the one we look at the most to help out Jalen Brunson lead the Knicks to a title is Karl Anthony Towns.
One thing, and I think that's held the Knicks back these last couple of years, as great a player as Brunson is, and I still don't think he gets his due around the NBA as one of the great players in the league, MVP considerations and such. But they rely too much on him at the end of big playoff games. There's got to be other options like Towns. I mean, he's your guy. I get it. But they have to have other options like Towns.
I don't know. Do I blame the coaching staff? I think it's in Jalen Brunson's nature. He always has to have the ball. I mean, it's not easy to blend Jalen Brunson into the team concept. He's not selfish. Don't misunderstand me. He's not selfish at all. But he feels he needs the ball in his hands. It's the best way for the team to score, and he's not wrong.
I'm glad.
I mean, how many big situations have we seen him take charge, give him the ball, get out of the way?
Listen, I think I like the fact that he's got the mentality that I want the ball in my hands and I want a chance to win the game, obviously, because he's your best player, and he should have that. But, as you said, it's not just taking the last shot. It's the amount of time he's handling the basketball. Also, it wears him down, too. He wasn't playing point guard early in the year and bringing the ball up and running the entire offense. And I think he's better when he does do that, obviously.
Yeah, but it was a great effort by the Knicks yesterday. There was another game going on in New York City. I love when they have the Knicks and the Nets playing at the same time. I'm going to tell you what I like about it. For fun, you look at the ticket prices, and the Knicks tickets are like 4 or 5 times the amount of the net tickets. I remember I took my son-in-law to a Brooklyn Nets Charlotte Hornet game. Was I going to say Bobcats?
Almost. Yes, you almost said that.
Okay, right. And the same night the Knicks were playing the Pistons. And I looked at the price. I wanted to go to the Knicks game. I'm looking at the price of the Knicks Piston game, and I go, oh, no, we're going to the Nets against Charlotte, because the Knicks tickets were about 4 times the amount, which shows you that. But yesterday, the Net game was intriguing because they were playing the Cleveland Cavaliers at the Barclays Center, and James Harden was returning. It wasn't the first time he returned since being an ex-Net, but something about a James Harden return to Brooklyn, it feels a little special because there was unfinished business or incomplete business during his time of being a Net. Remember, we had the big three: Irving, Durant, Harden, and a lot of people were picking them to win the NBA championship, and they may have done it had Harden and Irving not been injured during the playoffs, and the Nets got edged out by the Milwaukee Bucks in 7 games. Had Durant, had Irving, and Harden, Nets beat Milwaukee. I think Nets go on to win a championship. And had the Nets won an NBA championship, imagine how we would be looking at all 3 of those players. Harden would have had his only NBA championship. Irving would have had a much better legacy, than he has now, even though in fairness to Irving, he's reestablished himself in a good way at Dallas. And of course, Durant, who's intriguing. how would we have looked at him compared to the other great players of all time? Because I'm going to tell you, Keith, and I'm going to finish up what I have to say. When we look at the greatest NBA players of all time, obviously we start talking in the beginning about, Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, in no particular order. I'm not going to get into a debate. But the lower half of the top 10, we look at usually Magic, Bird. Where does Durant fit in? He might be better than Magic and Bird. I mean, arguably. But he's so hard to rank.
He is. He's very hard to rank for me. And by the way, one guy you didn't mention we'd look at differently. What would Steve Nash's legacy be if that team had won a championship? He gets chased out of town the next year, really through no fault of his own. And by the way, I know you know this, even without those two guys, Durant nearly won that series single-handedly. If his toe hadn't been on the line and that last three-pointer or two-pointer ended up to be, they might have won that series without him.
Yeah. Well, Durant does have a couple of NBA championships, and he went to Golden State. But Golden State was an elite team, and that Durant helped them a lot. It said so much for Steph Curry that we didn't realize at the time, because Durant was voted the MVP of both series. And when Durant left Golden State, the consensus was Durant's a better player than Curry. That he's a better player. But now we see Steph Curry is the ultimate unselfish superstar.
Yeah.
He went out of his way to elevate Durant. And Durant's not selfish, but I don't know whether Durant ever goes out of his way to elevate someone else. And Durant's not selfish. I'm not inferring that at all.
I don't think so.
Steph Curry is the ultimate superstar and the ultimate leader. Ultimate leader.
It's not fair that Durant gets looked at basically as Steph's caddy for those championships either. He was a major contributor to those teams. Steph wasn't looked at as a caddy. No. Durant was looked at as Steph's caddy, and he couldn't win a championship without Steph Curry. I mean,
Well, we saw what Steph has done without Durant. Durant was successful at OKC where he started off. They got to a finals the only time. And he would have been successful with the Nets if not for all those injuries. But at Phoenix, he wasn't successful. It was a bad situation, and he wasn't good for them. And now he goes to Houston, and Houston's basically the same as they were before they got Durant. Phoenix has been better as a result of that Durant deal. Dylan Brooks has all of a sudden thrived into, an all-star caliber player.
Yeah.
Like him or not.
Let's look and wrap it up on Durant. Durant's still an elite player. Eric Spoelstra just said yesterday he hopes he can talk Durant into playing in the 28 Olympics. So what will he be? 40? He'll be 40 by then, won't he? I'm not even sure how old he is.
Keith, isn't that sad? We got to talk guys into playing in the Olympics. I know in certain other sports like track and field, these guys would give anything to get into the Olympics.
Yeah. I was shocked that Steph Curry had never played in the Olympics before 2 years ago when he won a gold. How could Steph Curry at his age never have played in an Olympic game? It was shocking to me.
I can understand if they played in one Olympics at least and they won a gold medal and they elect not to come back. Okay, I can kind of understand that. But to have to, chase after guys to play in the Olympics, guys should be like begging to play in the Olympics.
They should be. By the way, good morning, Rick. Don't go away. We got a topic for you a little bit later that you'll enjoy in football. Real quick, as we look at talk about the NBA and focus a little bit, I'm going to go through some teams and let's label them contenders or pretenders. Some are obvious. In the East, the Pistons are an obvious.
Oh, obviously, championship contenders.
Celtics, who got off to a really rough start.
Absolutely championship contenders. And I'm going to tell you the big question is, are they getting Tatum back? If they get Tatum back and he's effective, oh, absolutely, big-time contenders. Listen, they've won twice as many as they've lost without Tatum.
Agreed. The Knicks, I'll go back.
Yeah, contenders, absolutely.
I called them a pretender yesterday, probably because I was angry about the way they played recently.
Contenders.
They are a contender. The Cavaliers, I'm going to say pretender.
Contenders. I'm going to tell you why. people tend to ignore Jared Allen come to playoffs. Great rebounder. Good, doesn't take a lot of shots. Good shooting percentage. Donovan Mitchell's a star. Harden might lay it all. Harden probably will lay it all on the line in pursuit of his first title.
This team's had some great regular seasons in recent history and not played well in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, all of them are contenders, virtually all.
Raptors, pretender.
No, pretenders. Pretenders.
Sixers, especially without Embiid, pretender. Pretender either way.
Pretenders. I mean, they might show up and score an upset for one series, but they're not built to last through the whole playoffs.
And is there anybody else in the East? So the Magic, the Heat,
Orlando, no pretenders. Orlando,
all in the play-in category right now, all pretenders.
Yeah.
Bucks, how about the Bucks have just fallen off the face of the earth at 26-33?
Well, even with Giannis back, they're not that good. The big talk with the Bucks is Giannis, and we're going to see in the offseason whether a team swings a deal for Giannis. There's going to be major interest in a deal. And the Bucks did it the smart way. They didn't rush before the trade deadline. In the offseason, they'll trade Giannis somewhere. And the team that gets eliminated in the playoffs and it's been disappointing and needs a big jolt for their fan base is going to trade for Giannis. Let's say the Knicks don't even make it to the NBA Eastern Finals. I could see them then breaking up their team to get Giannis. A team like the Knicks, who knows? Maybe Miami finds a way to get him. Maybe Orlando with their young players. I mean, maybe someone in the West. Maybe the Warriors. But I don't know what they'd have to give. Maybe the Lakers work out a deal with Austin Reeves, but they'd have to give more. What else are they going to give?
Who's the team?
It would be a gutsy move. It would be a gutsy move. Luka for Giannis straight out in the offseason. No, because the Lakers might feel we pair Giannis with LeBron, we can win a title.
Yeah, I don't know that Luke.
I don't think that'll happen. That's a little bit fantasy.
We'll get to the West in a second. Is there a team in the East that's really? Who's the team that's really surprised you that's done well in the East?
I think the Celtics, believe it or not, because with Tatum out and having gotten eliminated in the playoffs last year, and I think the Knicks would have beat them even with Tatum. That's the crazy thing, because the Knicks were up in the series when Tatum got hurt.
I agree.
How well the Celtics have played. The Raptors have surprised me.
Raptors are surprised as well. I agree. Big disappointment. To me, it's the Bucks.
What were you expecting? They got Miles Turner as a free agent. Giannis has been hurt. I can't say I'm surprised.
Who's your biggest disappointment then in the East?
I mean, the Pistons have been a little bit of a surprise how good they've been. We expected them to be good, but not this good.
We got your surprise. Give me your disappointment. I'm going to give me a team you're disappointed in the East. Got to be somebody.
Maybe the Sixers. Because when Embiid's been healthy, they haven't been that good.
Yeah. Or last year, so
I don't think there's that much disappointment in the East. Even the Sixers, what did I expect from them? Really, I don't think anyone falls under that category. In the West, I have some teams that have been disappointing.
Well, we'll go there now. The front runners easily are the Thunder and the Spurs, the two best teams in basketball in my mind, despite yesterday's
disappointing. You're saying?
Thunder. Maybe.
What about the Thunder? They've been disappointing to you?
No. Sorry, the two front runners in the East and probably for the championship.
Yeah. But you wonder what the Spurs are. They a year away. And then again, you think of the playoffs. A team is going to have to beat the Spurs 4 games.
Yeah, who's
Spurs are going to have to lose 4 times out of 7. And when you think of how good this Spurs team is, maybe they're ready to win the NBA championship now. Let's throw out yesterday's game. To beat the Spurs 4 games, and if Wemby's healthy and ready to go,
huge.
I think it's a huge chore to win 4 games against this Spurs team the thinking is the Spurs are 1 year away. You're looking at next year's NBA champions when you think of the Spurs. I believe that's the consensus thought. But maybe their time's going to arrive now this year when all is said and done.
Might be. You think they're? I think the Spurs are. I think the Spurs are coming out of the West. I think they'll beat the Thunder. I really do. Healthy.
Well, the regular season success, they've owned the Thunder in the regular season. And SGA said some weeks ago, when, team beats you 3 games in a row like that, you got to acknowledge that they're better.
Well, you said when the Knicks lost to the Pistons by 28, an average.
You have to acknowledge the Pistons are better now. Oh, look, despite yesterday, the Knicks are in trouble if they play the Pistons.
Agreed.
Because they have to beat the Pistons a few times.
Agreed.
I mean, you can't just show up, have 1 game, and you redeem yourself. The Pistons not only beat the Knicks 3 games, they did it decisively. It's not like they barely got by the Knicks and the Knicks have to make some small adjustments. But I'm going to tell you, between the Celtics and the Cavaliers, one of those teams could knock the Pistons off. They absolutely can. And if that happens, that kind of opens up, the door more for the Knicks.
Cavs are not getting my stamp of approval until they beat somebody in the playoffs. So we'll see.
Well, they got James Harden this year, so maybe things are a little different.
Maybe.
I know he's been a notoriously bad postseason player, but things could easily change.
We'll see how that goes. The rest of the West, as far as contending or pretending, the Rockets, I just can't feel like they're a contender.
No, I don't. I feel the Rockets are pretenders. I mean, the Rockets could win a playoff series, maybe 2. I just don't feel the Rockets are built to win a series against OKC or San Antonio. I don't get that feeling.
T-Wolves, pretenders.
I'm going to say contenders. I'm going to tell you why. If you look at that roster, if Rudy Gobert's a key, he's capable of playing really well. You got Julius Randle. We talked about the deal. Dante DiVincenzo, and of course Anthony Edwards, who after a couple of years of going to the West Finals, they're due for a breakthrough. The Timberwolves are very intriguing. I mean, they're the team that might take down San Antonio. They might take down the Thunder in this series.
Well, matchups mean everything, so we'll see. Nuggets are a contender in my mind, without a doubt. They're 2 years removed from a championship, and they still have one of the top 5 players in basketball. Who, by the way, did he look like he wanted to kill somebody the other night in that dust up with who were they playing that night? Was it?
Well, the cheap shot foul.
Yeah,
that happened, but the Nuggets. My concern is their window might be closing. They might be a little long in the tooth. Yes, last year when they got eliminated against OKC, it was in a 7-game series.
Great series.
Yeah, it went down to the wire. I don't think this Nugget team is any better than they were last year. Not at all. And they couldn't get it done then. But it's their category that falls in between contender and pretender. That would be it.
Rick thinks Rudy's a fake tough guy.
Rudy Gobert does grab a lot of rebounds. He could be highly effective, and you don't have to count on him to score for that Timberwolves team. Just be a rim protector and grab rebounds, and he'll help his team win.
As far as the Nuggets go, I still like that big 3 with Jokic, Murray, and Gordon. I think they're still as good as any top 3 in the West anyway. And
closer to being contenders than pretenders. Put it that way.
And Tim Hardaway's been a bit of a surprise, really playing well off the bench for that team. I like that.
I'm not dismissing the Nuggets' chances. I'm not, because if they get primed for playoff time, they're going to be tough to beat.
Lakers, pretenders. I still think they're pretenders.
Yeah, I got to say pretenders. And it's not easy to say because they really have a nice big three.
Really up and down.
Luka, LeBron, of course, Austin Reeves. And their bench isn't too bad. Something about the way they blend. They're lacking on defense. Luka, I can't see him playing good defense through a whole postseason. And LeBron, because of his age, I can't see him playing good defense on a regular basis. He hasn't. His defensive metrics have really been low this year. And Austin Reeves is just so defensively. I mean, they've got a high-powered big three. Listen, the Lakers could be a tough out for anyone. Don't get me wrong.
Well, don't
but
be.
You got to win. You can't just win one series and upset another team. The West is so loaded. You're going to have to beat a tough team to get there. And I don't think the Lakers are quite built to carry it through all the way to the NBA title.
Now, the West does have better teams to what you're just talking about in the play-in portion as they stand right now. Like Phoenix sits only 2 games behind the Lakers, but they're in the play-in portion of this. So you think any of these 4 teams, Suns, Warriors...
They can spring an upset. Any of those teams can win their first round if they survive the play-in, become a playoff team. All of them are capable of giving a lot of trouble to one of the top seeds. But are they good enough to just go through the whole NBA playoffs to the title? That's highly questionable.
I would agree with you, and I don't think the Clippers and Trailblazers, if they should find a way out of that play-in, are going to win a series. I really don't.
Not the Trailblazers, but the Clippers too. Same thing. I mean, they got a really good coaching staff with Ty Lue, Jeff Van Gundy there. They have a star in Kawhi Leonard if he shows up, but it's just move. You never know with the Clippers. The Clippers could maybe, show some resolve in the playoffs, and they could upset one of the good teams. It could happen.
They find ways to lose when they've got one of the better teams in the West. They find ways to lose in the playoffs. So, again, history tells me no.
Yeah, I'm not high on the Clippers' chances. Believe me, I'm not high.
Biggest surprise in the West.
I guess the Phoenix Suns, because the biggest surprise. No, you know what the biggest surprise is, and I'm looking at it backwards.
A good surprise.
Negatively this year. My bad surprise would be the Dallas Mavericks, because I feel it never had a chance to work out the Luka deal. I wouldn't have made the Luka deal, and I'm going to tell you why I wouldn't have made the Luka deal primarily, because Anthony Davis is 6 years older. 6 years older, so you're getting 6 less years out of a star play in a deal like that. You want the players to be approximately the same age if you are going to make a deal like that. Anthony Davis didn't stay healthy. Kyrie Irving got injured. Cooper Flag turned out to be the player I thought he would be. And I think had Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving been completely healthy, we would be talking about the Dallas Mavericks as contenders right now. Contenders to win the NBA title. Yet they're not even pretenders.
No.
They don't fall under the pretender category. Their chances of making the playoffs, what are they, 5-6 games out? They're not making the play-in, tournament. But they never had a chance to work it out. Believe it or not, Keith, I was hoping the Mavs would have run it back next season, not traded Anthony Davis, let Kyrie be healthy, and with Cooper Flag turning into a big star, run it back with those 3 next year and hope, everyone stays healthy and see what happens. See what would have happened.
My disappointment there in the West is the Warriors, actually. Even before the Jimmy Butler injury, I really thought Jimmy Butler was going to be a really good piece for this team. They weren't playing that great basketball before he got hurt. I think this is a disappointment.
They took a gamble, and I like their gamble. They got Porzingis, but he can't stay healthy. They got Porzingis. If he's healthy come playoff time, you match him with Draymond Green in the front line, they're going to have a certain toughness there, a nice defensive presence in the front line, and that wins you championships. But the Warriors remind us of a team that's just a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
They kind of remind me of when the Brooklyn Nets first opened the Barclays Center. They swung the deal with the Celtics to get Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, future Hall of Famers. And I remember in the offseason, I was talking to a Celtic fan from Boston. And I said, can these guys really help the Nets? He says, look, they're not in their prime anymore, but they're still good enough to win, but they're not the players they were. Once any athlete is not the player he is, you can't count on them for them to be a primary reason for you to win anymore. You're just hoping more than being realistic.
You know, I agree with all that. The Warriors, go back to Porzingis for a second. The guy can't stay healthy. He's a great talent. I loved him when he was in the Knicks, but he's never in his career been able to stay healthy. And I can't count on him making it through the grind of the playoffs.
Well, what's going to happen is going to hold them back during the regular season. You know, we talk about load management, Keith. Maybe the rules should change for load management and I'm just throwing out a number. The last 20 games of the season, let there be load management where coaches are allowed to get guys ready for the playoffs. That can be their primary goal late in the season. And fans would understand that maybe a visiting player isn't going to play the last 20 games. It's like buyer beware when you get your ticket.
Well, I mean, that's what it is now. So that's not changing any rules. It is buyer beware. Pay $400 to go see the SGA and he doesn't play. You know, again, I guess that's what life is about. You got to be careful. But what's Chris got here? When accomplished athlete gets older, he may lose skill, but they never lose experience. It's true, but skill still matters. I mean, experience will get you to a certain point, Chris, but you still got to be able to play the game. So, anyway, we'll be talking more NBA as we go forward.
I would try to say one thing about Chris's remark. Yeah. One of the funniest things I ever heard from an analyst happened. Oh man, it's like must have been 50 years ago. I mean, I'm telling you, they had the game of the week, the NBA on ABC, and Bill Russell was an analyst.
I remember.
And Jack Twyman is speaking to Bill Russell. He says, Bill, how important is this valuable playoff experience to these teams? And Russell said, it don't mean a thing. I kind of love that the way Russell said it, because you got to go out there and play the other team. I don't want to have valuable playoff experience. You know, you play 82 darn games during the regular season. Basketball is basketball. You're not going to all of a sudden start outsmarting the guy because it's the playoffs, because you've been there before. I can understand that in a Super Bowl game, you're playing against the Belichick Patriots who've been there a number of times, and you're there for the first time. You may be a little more uptight because the preparation for the game is foreign territory to you, as opposed to a team who's been there before. I get all that. That has some merit to it. But I don't want to have valuable playoff experience. It's basketball. Just play the darn game.
But it's not the same game. The game is ratcheted up in the playoffs. There's no doubt in anybody's. I don't think anybody's mind that the game is a little bit more intense.
No, Keith. If the Pistons are playing the Knicks this week, there's a rivalry there.
Well, there's games.
It's going to be as ratcheted up in the regular season as it is for the playoffs. I get that. I understand that. There's a different feeling for the playoffs. I understand all that. But it's not a seventh game. A seventh game is a little different, you know, a deciding game, because you're going to lay it all on the line at that point. You're not going to get Halliburton to play where he injured himself last year and he was under risk of injury. He took the risk because it was the 7th game for the NBA championship against the Thunder. He would not have done that in a regular season game. I agree.
Fair. Let's pivot a little bit. I want to talk real quick about one baseball story that I came across this morning. Ron Darling yesterday really ripped the Mets because Mendoza has said he's going to go with a 6-man rotation because Senga does not like to pitch quite as much as the other guys. And Darling said they shouldn't be coddling Senga. They should be going with a 5-man rotation. I got to agree with Ron Darling. Your best pitcher needs to pitch as often as you can get him out there, and they shouldn't be on a 6-man rotation and costing theoretically their number one pitcher that many starts. It just makes no sense.
Well, first, Ron Darling knows more about pitching than I can ever imagine. Okay, so I'm not questioning Ron Darling per se. I question all of baseball, their thought process. Why have a rotation to begin with? Because once you have a rotation, you got to stick to it and pitch these guys on these games. Otherwise, you're supposedly messing up your schedule. What if they're rainouts? What happens if your ace pitcher is just having a bad game? You have to take him out after 25, 30 pitches. Is he going to have to wait X amount of games to come in again? You could bring him back sooner. I don't like pitching rotations. I don't like pitch counts. I like what David Cohn once said, his theory. David Cohn said maybe there shouldn't be a pitch count. Just give a pitcher more rest. Give him an extra day's rest. No, I'm all against the pitch count. The only ones you accommodate, the only ones are your star pitchers. For the Yankees, for example, I'm going to accommodate Max Fried and Garrett Cole. Work everything around them, that they get X amount of rest and so on. And with the Mets, I'm not going to go out of my way like with Clay Holmes. Oh, I've got to accommodate Clay Holmes. You try to work them out when they have enough rest where a pitcher could be told the day before, you're pitching tomorrow. He's going to know that's a possibility. What happens if they're rainouts? I mean, there are too many elements involved. I don't like this rotation business, but just sum up what Darling said is correct. You have to, if you're going to have a rotation, it's got to primarily be built around your best pitcher or two.
Yeah, and you're also going to cost the rest of your pitchers who are. Freddie Peralta was one of their big acquisitions. This he's a very, very good pitcher. You're going to cost him starts when you go with a 6-man rotation. It makes no sense not to get your best players out there as often as possible.
Or unless you could be creative, and these starters between starts can pitch an inning or two out of the bullpen.
That won't
bring them in during a game. No, I mean that's kind of a trickery slope.
Yeah, it won't happen in today's game. This won't happen. Not only are they going to pitch less, make less starts, they're still going to pitch, to 100 pitch, 90 or 100 pitch counts.
Listen, something needs to be said about protecting a pitcher's arm. I get all that. We look at Sandy Koufax, and I know we're talking about the 1960s. It's twofold. He retired early because of his arm difficulty. If he was pitching in today's era, chances are they would have protected him better, and he wouldn't have had to retire as early. But he also pitched on 2 days rest, the 7th game of a World Series, and pitched a 3-hit shutout. So Warren on 16-inning games he'd be pitching.
Let me take the other side of that Koufax argument. If he pitched in today's game, he wouldn't have any no-hitters, and he would never have struck out 300 guys in any season. So a lot changes if Koufax is pitching today. So, no perfect games, no no-hitters either, because we don't let guys.
Yeah, listen, the pitcher's arm needs enough rest, but you want to build it around your 2 best pitchers. I mean, it's certainly your ace, and if your number 2 is good.
Why do guys need rest today when they didn't need rest in the 60s and 70s? I mean, the game wasn't any different. It was harder on players then. Travel and everything else was harder. But guys would go out and throw 300 innings and complete, 25 games a year Complete.
I mean, a starting pitcher needs no more than 4 days rest.
Yeah, and they can pitch
no more than that.
Yeah.
And if he's conditioned to pitch on 3 days rest, his arm gets used to it. I guess he could do that. But the prevailing thought is 4 days rest. He's certain 5 days rest. You're giving him more rest than he needs. 6 days rest gets to be really extreme. And why do these guys on the lower part of the rotation, like Senga, why do they have to be accommodated altogether necessarily?
They don't need to be. Don't put them in a bullpen if they can't pitch that much, And
I mean, I even look at, we're Yankee fans. We look at the Yankee rotation. Yeah, you got to accommodate Fried, Colin, Rondon too, your number 3 starter, and Schleder. He's a phenom, a potential phenom. So you want to see how he works in. But a guy like Clark Schmidt, I'm not going out of my way to accommodate him, even though he's got ability, he's got potential to have a good year. I can't go out of my way to accommodate him the way I would the others.
He better pitch well early in the season before Cole and Rendon get healthy, or Schmidt will be out of the rotation anyway. So he'll get his chances early.
Well, listen, I like this Met team all in all. Because the rotation, with that said, starting rotation is good. All in all, it's good.
What do you?
All in all, I mean, nothing special. They're not lights out. Their bullpen is, it's so-so. I know they got Devin Williams as their ace, and maybe he'll return to the form he had at Milwaukee. But and the moves they made seem to be decent moves all in all. Should they have kept Alonso? Yeah, I mean, they should have kept Alonso because he was a legacy player. The fans would have wanted him. And Alonso would have helped the Mets. So Steve Cohen should have overruled David Stern. You're the owner. There's a difference between meddling and once in a while overruling the owner. Look, Robert Kraft overruled Bill Belichick in the beginning, and they kept Tom Brady. Okay? Yep. If you're the owner, you got to sit down with your coach and say, look, all in all, I'm not going to meddle. Once in a while, it's going to be rare. I'm going to have to overrule you. So if you're going to take this job, you have to take it with that understanding that once in a while you get overruled, and that's not going to be meddling on my part because I own the team. Case of the New York Football Giants with John Mara. He should have overruled his GM and kept Saquon Barkley. You don't let him escape to the Philadelphia Eagles in your division. What a fiasco. Barkley should have been a career Giant. He's a legacy player. Alonso should have been a career Met. He's a legacy player. Now, don't get me wrong. You're not paying Alonso anything he wants, but you sit down, you offer him a reasonable deal, okay? And they could have gotten him for less money than the Orioles ultimately paid. $31 million for 5 years, $155 million. He would have signed for less than that at a certain point because they didn't know Alonso would get that. Scott Boras had Alonso sign early in the process because he knew if that number was off the table, he might not get it elsewhere. But Alonso should have been a Met. And he would have broken all these records and or added to it. And I don't blame Alonso. He had no choice but to go elsewhere. I blame the Mets.
Well, other than Lindor, the Mets really broke up the core of that team with Alonso going and Nemo going to the Rangers, 9-year veteran, very popular player. And now they're going to probably go to rookie Benja. I'm not sure how you say his name. Carson Benj, I'll say, in right field. They move Soto to left. Is this a better team with guys? You got 2 guys playing new positions in the infield. You got a rookie in right field. You got an iffy.
Alonso at first base. Yeah. And David Stern's whole thing is they want to move on from Alonso because they want to improve defensively. And the only move I see that really clearly improved them defensively, they got Mark Simeon to play second base.
Good defender.
35 years old. His bat's been in decline, but he's still good defensively. Nemo, what was wrong with Nemo's glove?
He was okay defender, not great, but he was okay.
But now you have Soto in left field.
So they moved Soto to left field, and they're going to play. It looks like Carson Benz, the rookie, in right field.
So. Yeah, well, we'll see how he is in right field. Soto in left, he had his struggles in right field last year. You know what's interesting with Steve Cohn? He doesn't want to captain. He says he doesn't believe in it. And you want to know something? I don't disagree with Steve Cohn in theory, because I think in a lot of instances, this captain title is so overrated. But the reason Steve Cohn doesn't want it, because he's got Lindor and Soto on the same team. And even though Lindor's been longer, you give it to Lindor, you're kind of hurting Soto's feelings, and you can't give it to Soto and not Lindor.
Speaking of Brandon Nimmo, there's a great article I read this past week. I don't know if it was in The Athletic or where it was, but it was about that whole trade and how it went down, and how the rumors were, which I hadn't heard, was that Nimmo was traded because he stood in the way of Lindor being named the captain. And he said that never happened because he felt he should have it as the longer tenure.
Nimmo, definitely not Nimmo.
I'm just saying those were the rumors, and he denied any of that. He says he got along with Lindor fine. He denied any of it. But the whole article was about the logistics of this trade and how he got a call from Stearns asking if he'd waive his no trade and how he had to think about it. And once he thought about it for 2 days, he said to his wife, why would I say no? They don't want me. Why would I go back to the Mets?
Wait. There are a couple of things. He talked to Jacob deGrom, who's at Texas.
Yes, he did.
deGrom encouraged him to come to Texas. It's a good atmosphere. You know what, Lindor? Red flags are starting to come out with Lindor, which I don't like. Now, when Lindor was with Cleveland, reportedly everyone in the organization loved Lindor. Even the clubhouse staff loved Lindor. He was very pleasant to be around. Now, these rumors bother me. I didn't hear about him and Nimmo potentially having differences. We hear all the trouble he's had with Jeff McNeil. You know, we hear these rumors, and now we heard rumors him and Soto didn't exactly get along.
Yep.
And it's easy to say, well, maybe Soto's coming as a big star, but guess what? Soto and Aaron Judge got along great. They got along great, even though I'm sure part of Soto wanted to exceed Judge as a player. Soto never seemed to feel threatened by Judge's presence. They pushed one another to be better, and they liked one another as well. And something about Lindor, you know, how's he getting along with these guys? Is he a bit of a prima donna? I don't know. Lindor seems very pleasant on the surface when he talks to reporters, this and that. But you wonder in the clubhouse. Nimmo says, no, we got along really well. Is Nimmo going to say we didn't get along well?
On his way out the door, he might. On his way out the door, he might, but he didn't.
He might, but I just don't know. But as far as Nimmo being captain, no, you can't name Nimmo captain over Lindor. Lindor was clearly a better player. Lindor's been on the Mets long enough. Lindor has a long enough contract. The Mets' mistake was they signed Nimmo originally to an 8-year, $162 million contract, and he's not a $20 million per year player.
I think he steps up his game in Texas. I really do. I think he's.
Well, maybe he'll turn into one, but I don't think.
I think he'll see a little more power out of him.
Number. Yeah.
I think he'll see a little more power out of him.
He could help the Rangers. He could definitely help them.
Yeah, I don't think the Mets. That the whole trade itself is a big gamble because Marcus Semien is 35 years old. He's coming off one of his worst offensive seasons. If he bounces back, it'll be fine. If not, I'm not sure. I mean, they can move Bichette over there, but they do have some guys with some flexibility.
The problem, Bichette's their third baseman.
He is, but he played.
Bichette never really played third, did he?
Yeah, no, he's never played third before any consistency, but he never played second before the World Series last year.
So I don't get this. They moved Soto to left. He's not an asset. I could easily call him a liability. They moved Bichette to third. He's certainly not an asset. I can easily call him a liability. Where's the Polanco's at first base? He's hardly played first. You can't call him an asset. He might be a liability.
Not one inning at first base.
Simeon at second base, and their rookie they're putting in right field. They haven't improved defensively. If that was David Stern's goal, I'm
not sure where they got better myself. Now, Bichette. Now, here's the thing, and you have to take with a grain of salt the reports you hear out of spring training, because I was also reading this weekend, and I swear to God, back-to-back articles. I read an article where Bichette was struggling with the switch to third base, and the very next article I read how he had made some really spectacular plays over there. So
he might be good. A lot of times we don't value defense. Look, it depends what you want. We still look at offensive output as the main thing. The Yankees have a third baseman, Ryan McMahon. Outstanding glove, no bat. Okay? And who would you rather have as your third baseman? You'd rather have the bat with Bichette, let's be honest about it. But maybe we're devaluating defense a little more than we should, because we're used to looking at numbers in baseball, and we're used to looking at offensive numbers. We don't look at defensive numbers.
You know what we should, because you know what still wins World Series? Pitching, defense, and timely hitting. That's what wins championships still, not 50 home runs. I mean, look at Ohtani's hitting 78 home runs or whatever he's hitting. But they have they play good defense, and they've got great pitching in LA too. That's why they're winning World Series. And if you undervalue defense, as you just talked about, you're not going to have a good, fundamentally sound team.
Well, you don't want a guy to be a defensive liability. As long as he's not a liability, you're okay going forward with him. But sometimes you have a player who he's slowed down as he gets older. He becomes a liability, and he's too big of a name to change his position. Like, for example, what are the Angels ultimately going to do with Mike Trout? Mike Trout was a great outfielder, not a good defensive outfielder, a great defensive outfielder.
Right.
Sorry. But he's older now. Let's say he's a good outfielder right now. No longer great. Let's call him good. There's going to get to the point where eventually he's going to become an average outfielder where you could keep him, and then he becomes below average. And where do you put him? Everyone looks to put a guy at first base. Look, Casey Stengel even did that with Joe DiMaggio at the end of his career. And the Yankees did with Mickey Mantle. They put them both at first base.
Yeah.
You can't hide a guy anymore. Pete Alonso was a first baseman, and they moved him off David Stearns because he didn't like him defensively. Pete, I didn't think Pete was that bad. What do you think? I didn't think it was that bad.
I don't think he was good, but I don't think he was like Dave Kingman bad, I guess, on defense, right? But maybe you'll find out now. With Polanco never having played an inning at first base, either he takes to it like a fish to water, or he might make Pete Alonso look really good. I don't
think Polanco is going to be bad. How good he's going to be. The jury's still out.
We don't know.
Jury's still out. He might be very good there. He might have his difficulties.
By the way, it's a position defensively that's very underrated. Because teams try to hide guys at first base through the decades, right? And we see how the Hernandez and the Mattingleys have saved errors for other guys around the infield time after time.
First base, I'm going to tell you, it's close to my heart, because when I played ball and I had all my aspirations, I was a first baseman. You know who I had myself after, Keith? Eddie Kranepool. That's who I was out there, playing through, the high school age years.
Classy guy, Ed Kranepool.
18 years with the Mets. That's what I loved. That's what I wanted to see with Alonso. Career Met. I mean, they could have worked it out. And eventually he could have transitioned and DH'd and been an asset. I mean, Steve Cohen, he's been a great owner for the Mets. Don't get me wrong. Because if it wasn't for Steve Cohen,
he
wouldn't have spent the money to get the players like Soto, the others. Steve Cohen has put his money where his mouth is. But Steve Cohen expected, when he bought the team, we're going to win a World Series within the next, what did he say, 3 years, 5 years? Steve Cohen has to be frustrated. you got to give Steve Cohen a certain amount of credit. The Mets didn't make the playoffs last year, yet he didn't fire the manager. That's a certain amount of restraint that he showed.
Yeah, listen, he's trying to win, so I give him credit for that. George was the same way. Try to win. At least you're trying to win.
George would have fired managers left and right.
He would have. Well, we talked more about baseball than I thought we would, but that was a good conversation. And Rick, I apologize for the tease. We're not going to get to that topic. I thought we'll hold that for Friday. That's going to be quarterbacks and some landing places for free agents because we just don't have time right now. We don't have time to get into a lot of college basketball either, CA. Good morning. But we'll check in Wednesday night. We'll certainly get into that. And we'll talk some more college basketball as we go forward on this show as well. And Danny's angry about something. I don't know what he put
on. That one player on USC, if I'm not mistaken.
Their top
said
scorer.
He got hurt, left the game. He played his last game, and then he was sitting in the stands.
Yeah.
And the coach said we had no more seats on the bench for him to sit at. You mean they had no more chairs, a space to squeeze and sit on the darn floor there? Something went down that they don't want to talk about.
He has left the team altogether now, so that's
something went down. Come on, what the heck went down?
He's gone altogether. Look at that team's not going anywhere either right now.
I'm going to tell you what they do. These teams, if it's a great player, their star player, they should have a lot more latitude.
They should, but some guys would disagree with that as well.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson all of a sudden says, "Screw you" to the coach, to Mike Brown, and he just storms into the locker room. They'll have a talk with him. They won't even suspend him. He'll be back next game. But if it's your last guy on the bench and does it, he's gone.
Well, somebody got penalized, somebody, right? I mean,
that's what I liked about Jimmy Johnson, football coach. He says, I have different rules for different players. And that's the truth. He was being honest about it, at least.
Agreed. And one of the things about Bill Belichick that Tom Brady hated was he was treated like everybody else for 20 years, and he got tired of it. So that's why.
I agree with Brady in his case.
No.
I did kind of agreed with him. It gets to a point where you have to trust your guy, and he comes into a little bit of a different category. As long as he can handle it, and he's not a prima donna. And Brady was never a prima donna, never. Yeah,
Rick says this kid was 26 and he should have been out of college long ago anyway. We see a lot of 26-year-olds today in college.
What is the oldest age you could milk out playing college ball?
Miami Hurricanes last year had a guy who was a ninth-year player. So that's 27, 28.
Do you mean to tell me if a guy first comes to college when he's 32, he could still be on the team and play?
If he has eligibility, sure. I mean, look at who's Chris Winkie won. I think he won the Heisman. He was like 27 or something when he won the Heisman Trophy. So there are guys that do it. Danny, we'll get into this more. We talked about the Knicks earlier. We don't have time to get into it, but I agree with that. We didn't talk about it when we talked about the Knicks, but Tom Thibodeau, I still think got screwed. And unless Mike Brown wins a championship this year or next year, we're vindicated. Danny and I are on the same page here.
I mean, Mike Brown's in a tough position. Either make it to the NBA Finals or people are going to complain. Even if he makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals and gets eliminated, people are going to complain. But if they don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, at least the Knicks, and they might not, because they might have a tough matchup. We're not only talking Pistons, whatever. We're talking about Celtics, Cavaliers. If they get bumped out of the playoffs, heaven forbid the Orlando Magic bump the Knicks out of the playoffs, and that's a possibility.
That would be
a team like that. It's going to be ugly.
That would be a night.
Mike Brown was put in a tough position.
Very tough, very tough. Jack, anything boxing tonight? Check out Glove Fist at 7:00 with Jack and Frank Laterzo. If you want to give it a little preview of the show tonight, Jack, you can.
Yeah, I mean. But there are no big fights on the horizon until at least late in the month. Semi-big to some people. Sebastian Fundora, Keith Thurman late in the month. This past weekend, Emmanuel Navarrete fought Sugar Nunez. The bigger news is the soap opera stuff in boxing. That's more meaningful than the fights a lot of time. You know, Eddie Hearn and Dana White going at it. Dana White, UFC boss, getting into boxing, going to kind of him and Eddie Hearn and this competitive big battle. And it's kind of fun to see this behind the scenes stuff.
Well, check out Jack tonight at 7 o'clock. But if you want to sit through the outro that I've agreed to play at the end of every show, I'll talk to you afterwards. And if not, I'll see you Friday morning. Guys, I promise we'll get to the NFL musical chairs and quarterback at the quarterback position on Friday, and we'll dive into that. We need a little time to do that, though. So, guys, have a great Tuesday and Monday, and a great week. See you guys later. Bye-bye.